here we have his self-definition. So I am my thought, I am a thinking thing. I am a thinking thing. What does that mean? It means I have all these different modes of thought, including doubting, being deceived. Right? This is the kind of existence Mariana has. She's the one being deceived. What is her reality? Well, we're not sure. We have to speculate about that. We have to figure out whether she's really in the hospital bed, whether she's really somebody who's just going to evaporate or die in the story. So what happens now? Because the difficulty here is that this is all well and good. What about my body? What about my need to eat? What about these things that are part of my daily life that don't involve me just thinking? He says at the bottom of 66, I'm beginning to know a little better what I am, but it still seems, and I cannot resist believing that corporeal things, whose images are formed by a thought which the senses themselves examine, are much more distinctly known than this mysterious I, which does not fall within the imagination. Yet it would be strange indeed if these very things I consider to be doubtful were more distinctly known to me than what is true. So the question is coming up here, what about bodies? What about my body? What about the things that I sense, things that any of you guys would point to immediately if I ask what's real? You would say, this is real. Or, this hand, this is a hand, that's real. If your philosophy calls it into question, there's something wrong with your philosophy, not with my hand or my senses. What about the plain evidence of my senses? So he begins reasoning about wax, this wax experiment. It's quite interesting. You can do this with chewing gum or anything else that changes its qualities under a little bit of treatment. His examination of the wax leads him to a particular conclusion. This is my next bullet point. I'll show this again. His experiment with the wax and his conclusion about how he perceives all bodies. What about bodies? Well, he does this wax experiment. Have the wax here, it's sealing wax, it's hard, cold, has a certain smell, etc. I bring it near the flame, it changes state. It changes from hard to soft, it changes its smell, it changes its texture. Every physical quality about it seems to change. If we had time, I'd pass out sticks of gum. You can list all the physical properties of the gum before you chew it for a while, list all the physical properties. It looks like it's changed. So if the wax or the gum, if all of its physical properties can change, but it still remains the same wax, undoubtedly it is the same wax before and after I heat it, before and after it cools. It's the exact same wax. Well, what is the wax then? What is it? It's not any one of the sensible qualities. It's not even all the sensible qualities together that I'm experiencing with the wax. At the bottom of page 67. Perhaps the wax was what I now think it is. Namely, the wax itself was never really the sweetness of the honey or the fragrance of the flowers, nor the whiteness or the shape or the sound. But what was this thing then that I imagined? It wasn't those qualities. Those qualities were sort of extra or changeable about it. What's right down at the core of the wax? What's the one thing that is always the same in the wax? And his answer is the wax's extension, or its ability to take up space. The wax is a physical thing. It has a certain, we would use today the vocabulary of matter, vocabulary that Descartes has access to. But it's matter that takes on different qualities. It's just an extended thing. What is it to be extended? Page 67 at the very bottom. Is this thing's extension also unknown? Or it becomes greater in the wax that is beginning to melt, greater in boiling wax, greater still as the heat is increased. It remains, skipping a sentence, it remains then for me to concede that I do not grasp what this wax is through the imagination. I perceive it through the mind alone. How do I grasp the wax? This extension of the wax. We find the mind being more important than the senses again. I grasp what the wax is intellectually at the deepest level. The sensory predicates that I attach to it, the sweetness, the smell, the softness, the color, all of those things are subsequent. But my knowledge of the wax and what the wax is intellectual knowledge. It's sometimes called Descartes the modern Plato. Here you see similar kind of intellectualism. Plato's reality is the form, not the physical thing. Descartes' not going that far. He's not doing anything, not doing a Platonic system, but he's saying in a similar way, it's not those material properties that you know from your senses, the reality of the thing. The ultimate reality of it is its extension, and all of these things can be grasped ultimately only by the mind. What he says at the end of meditation 2, which was in meditation 3, the end of class here, is that this is in fact the same thing applying to every other material object that I know. I know it with my mind, not with my senses. The senses might give me some cues or some input, but the ultimate grasp of what the thing is a mental grasp. He says in the middle of 69, I note regarding the wax, what I note regarding the wax applies to everything else that is external to me. Next paragraph, lo and behold, I've returned on my own to where I wanted to be. Since I now know that even bodies are not, properly speaking, perceived by the senses or by the faculty of imagination, that's visualizing using my senses, but by the intellect alone, they are not perceived through their being touched or seen, only through their being understood. Is he right about this? Can we follow along with this argument, at least for the sake of argument? Physical objects, things outside of my mind, maybe including my own body, are not, they don't give me a sort of direct knowledge from the senses. I only know them through the mind. Plausible. We're in a sort of a weird place now, because we want to say, these are real, this is real. Descartes says, is it? Or what's the foundation behind that? What's the philosophical story that you would tell behind that?